Welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly hangout where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The standard disclaimer applies. The thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. Tonight, we are soliciting questions and comments from you via Twitter at Mason Roundtable or on the Facebook event page. Let's do a quick round of introductions. -1 tonight. Jason is feeling under the weather, so we send our regards. My name is John Ruark. I'm a member of Herndon Lodge number 264, the Patriot Lodge number 1957, and the A. Douglas Smith Lodge of Research. I don't know the number off the top of my head. All right, and I will hand it off to Robert.
Hey, Keegan Lodge number 78, Worshipful Master there, and the host of the Whence Came You Masonic podcast. And off to Juan.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Juan Sepulveda. I am currently a free agent of the proud 17th Masonic District of the state of Florida, and I am the host of the Winding Stairs Freemasonry podcast.
Excellent.
Nick.
Hi, I'm Jason Richards, and past master of Corinthian Lodge number 67 and big time Farmington. Happy to be here.
Alrighty. Moving on to Masonic news this week. First and foremost, we've grown our availability, and I wanted to proudly announce through Robert Johnson's help that we are on Stitcher Radio. So if you have the Android or iOS app, you can find us at our own channel on the Masonic Roundtable Stitcher page. So it's got an HTML5 app. You can listen to it on your phone, on the web, and I think we're all caught up there. Yeah, it looks like we're up to last week. Excellent.
Yeah, it pulls right from our RSS feed, so we actually don't have to do anything. It was just for whatever reason, we kind of just forgot about Stitcher Smart Radio. And so what's cool about Stitcher is anybody who also has drives some of the higher end vehicles, some of the higher end audio systems in those vehicles have Stitcher already installed. So you could drive your BMW or whatever and listen to this, and some of the new Fords also have it too. So you can listen to PMR in your car.
Nice. Sweet. Very cool. So I know that's an easier option for us Android types to find that as opposed to just going through iTunes. Awesome. Thank you very much for that, RJ, getting us set up there. Let's see. Other Masonic news. 3,000 likes. It is through all of your help. Was that a spit take?
Yeah, I was going to take but decided not to because my computer is nice.
Yeah, Juan did a good job just kind of helping us get over that hump. It's an artificial number, but it's amazing to see the support we got from Masons from around the globe. And again, as we talked about during our Thanksgiving episode, thank you for all your help, commenting. I feel like I know a lot of the people already that continually watch the show and give us feedback. Anything else you guys want to say?
Yeah, we definitely appreciate the participation. When we set out to do this at the beginning of the program, it was just the 5 of us, and that number continues to grow, and it's more and more of us sitting around the Masonic Roundtable. So, pretty soon we're gonna need loudspeakers to ask someone to pass the salt.
Nice.
Someone has to fix that. That was horrible.
Alrighty then. Now, in big news, I'll let Mr. Freemasonry Reddit mod talk about this interesting thread that came up on Reddit this week.
Ooh, yes, we did have an interesting thread. So, if any of you are familiar with a certain Worshipful, you may have seen him on a few television shows. He's written a couple of books. Nice guy. Anyway, one of his books, Solomon's Bill, a very, 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 very interesting little secret. Now, we Freemasons love our codes. We just we get kind of geeked out about codes, and so a Redditor decided to post a comment on it and said, I was looking at the back of the book, and all of a sudden I saw these certain letters were brighter than the others, and I just needed to take a look, and then all of a sudden the letters said, "Asen, don't trust him." And of course, with the Mason, don't trust him. Now, what do you guys think? Do you think this was intentional?
Right, so you guys should be able to see that on the YouTube page. So sorry for the podcast listeners, but I've got my own copy here, and I know Robert went out and bought his on Amazon Prime once he found out. Plain as day on the back of the book.
Yeah,
it's about a little write-up of what the book is about. And as closer examination reveals, the entire textual font is gray for each letter, except for certain letters which are just shaded white. People thought, well, maybe they're bolded, but if you're looking really close, they just basically went from gray to white on certain letters, and you can see them circled there.
Yeah, and it's totally legit. I mean, I went up on it with a light and a microscope, like type glasses, and it's so legit. It's really kind of funny. There's a plain huge difference in the letters. It's like if you look up close at the old comic books, how they shade things with dots. Every letter is like that. That's gray, except the circled ones, completely white. I think it's a wonderful marketing ploy. You might the same thing happened. I saw this. I was like, I gotta have it, right? I'm gonna go check it out myself. So I sure enough went and spent a couple bucks and got it on Amazon. Amazon Smile, Shriners Hospital charity.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's been speculated, as you said, the text is Asen don't trust high, so you would think that there would be an M at the front and the end, and I guess you could look at possibly the first M being in a different color font got overwritten, right? So as they bolded Solomon's Builders, they lost that formatting. So maybe this first M should have been the first letter, and then if you go and look for another M at the end of this sentence, well, the first sub-bullet, Masonic connections to national monuments, that M may have been slated to be the final M. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just a spurious publisher.
Right.
Well, that's the thing, is actually the first comment on the Reddit post from user Marcio the Great. Mr. Hodab just sent me another email. Looks like he checked the book for himself and confirmed that he sees these words too, and that he will be speaking to his publisher. So I guess he does. I mean, at least according to this Redditor who seems to be in contact with him, he also seems to intimate that he agrees as well. So
I mean, this is
very interesting.
This was published in 2007.
The longest game I've ever seen played. Holy crap!
What's funny is we were talking a little bit before the show, and the two speculations that I think the guys here tonight, and I would love to hear what Jason has to say. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight. That's why I'm wearing the bow tie in Jason's honor here.
Oh.
So the two speculations are marketing ploy. You see this, you've got to go out and get it, read the whole book, see if you see anything in there. Or number two, maybe the guy who did the proofing for the cover and back art, a little malicious, and doesn't like Masons, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I like the second story. I like the second version better.
It's juicier.
I know.
Secrets.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not uncommon. I think Hodap himself may have done that for an earlier book. And Dan Brown for like the Da Vinci Code, I believe it was the Da Vinci Code, put a Masonic pigpen cipher subtly in the back of one of his books, and so that led you to a clue to the next book. So those things are done on purpose. I don't think this one was.
I'm not going to go and tell you guys the details because I'll leave it for a mystery. You guys go out and check it out. But there's a book by some guy named Hogan who wrote a book on alchemy, and it's one of his more rare books. there are illuminated letters that spell out certain things, and if you guys check it out, and that was done intentionally. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Will
It's
do.
added to the Christmas list.
To the Christmas list. I hate the Beatles. Pay no attention to my mug.
Oh, my favorite comment. Somebody call Nick Cage. There's a mystery afoot.
I want that Nick Cage picture where he looks like he's in the council uniform with a cowboy hat and the weird shirt.
Oh man, I love that. Oh man, I gotta find that one now.
All right, let's see. The last thing for news is, as we've been talking about for probably about a month or two now, the Sparklight campaign. Had a lot of fun, a lot of learning of what you guys like to read. As a reminder, we are going to randomly select one of you who have been posting to our page with the hashtag Sparklight. We're going to pick a date, and that date will be December 16th, so 2 weeks from today. You can stay tuned, and we'll pick a name randomly. We'll have a random number generator, and pick one lucky person who's posted on our Facebook page to receive one of our favorite books, maybe a couple extra little gifts, a little gift package just in time for the holidays. So that's really fun. Look forward to that. Be a nice way of giving back to you guys. And how can one join? There's still time. 2 weeks, like I said. We will. You don't have to purchase anything from us. The important thing is that you go into our Facebook page, our wall, if you will, and add a photo, preferably of your favorite Masonic book. Pick a book. If you have one of our bookmarks, stick it in there. If not, just share what you got. We love to read. The whole intent here is to spark light, to gather from you guys what you like to read about, what books have inspired you, and just share things that we may not have heard of, right? We're not experts in everything. I love hearing what people like to read. So with that, take your time and pick out a good book. Let us know. Hashtag SparkLight, and stay tuned for our December 16th show.
Yes, and I wanted to add that they can use the hashtag on Twitter or Facebook.
Oh, good catch.
Yeah, so
We will be checking both.
exactly. So we'll be picking from there.
Mhm. Awesome. Okay, moving into our topic for this evening. The fourth liberal arts and science, arithmetic. Right? Let's try to make math fun. RJ, you really set us up by saying, this is going to be a great episode, all about taking something as dry as math and try to relate that to Masonry and have a good time. So we'll try to do our best.
Math is inherently dry. I mean, it is the most basic language.
That's funny. I mean, I'm an engineer. I've mentioned that in other shows. I took a lot of math, and although I didn't love it, I'm okay at it, and I think there's a lot to be learned there.
John's more than okay. He's being completely low-key about his knowledge.
Yes. But I think the important thing that I just, in my schooling, my training, that I think arithmetic is important at a base level, right? We should all have a fundamental knowledge. And just as a reminder, one thing I learned recently is that the 7 liberal arts and sciences, while an interesting concept for Masons, was actually pretty much what you were taught in your primary and secondary schools back in the early 1800s. So this was actually reinforcing a concept you already had coming into Lodge. It was basically saying, don't forget everything you've learned in your primary and secondary schooling, because this is fundamental to you being a good person, right?
Right. It's the base knowledge that basically every human being should have in, whatever you want to call before Common Era. These were the subjects man was taught. Why mathematics? It is literally the oldest, well, using the word arithmetic, anyway, the oldest and simplest form of number study, dealing with your primary functions, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing.
So obviously kind of important. The other thing I wanted to mention, too, is that although we've been doing kind of the trivium and quadrivium a little bit out of order, it is important to know that you have to have arithmetic kind of mastered or nailed down before you can move up to higher level concepts like geometry, music, and astronomy. Right? That you need to know math before you can apply that to higher level concepts. Same thing as with grammar, right? You need to have a good foundation of grammar before you can apply the concept of logic and rhetoric. If you can't speak correctly, you can't
Right.
form a logical argument.
So the idea of arithmetic being the first is that if you break it down, arithmetic is numbers. Geometry is numbers in space. You have music, which is numbers in time, and you have astronomy, which is numbers in space and time. So you can look at it that way.
That just blew my mind.
It's beautiful.
Right.
I wanted to draw a parallel with what John said, that it is essential that in the study of the liberal arts and in our attempt to progress through a civilized education, it is important that we go step by step, and that each one of those steps, regardless of how foreign they are to us or how difficult or how challenging we might think they are, it's important that we focus on each one before we progress to the next one, because each one builds upon the next. And the parallel I want to draw is with our degree systems of education. The same thing applies in my mind. Whenever you become an entered apprentice, yes, you can rush through it and learn your catechism or whatever requirement there is, speed through it. That's perfectly fine, but you're not mastering, or you're not really utilizing the tools provided to you in those degrees to the best of your ability. So it is prudent for you to actually take the one step, study it, try to apply as much as possible, feel comfortable with it before you move on, as opposed to just trying to breeze by.
I'm going to build on that too and say that even that is an allusion to the higher degrees of Masonry, right? A lot of those are built on the Blue Lodge concepts, and so if you don't understand the Blue Lodge, and that's why everyone says, "Oh, wait a year before you join an independent body," it kind of makes sense, right? You have to know the foundation. You have to have a solid foundation with a good cornerstone before you can expand into higher level concepts. I mean, there's very abstract concepts in the higher degrees, and if you don't understand how to just not be a jerk, that's kind of a basic thing in order to be a better person.
Right.
Mhm.
So just like in elementary school, they say that any weakness in mathematics comes from a previous weakness or a misunderstanding of a concept that you were supposed to learn earlier, which is why they always say ask those questions. If you don't ask those
Yes.
questions, you're not going to get a clear answer, and if you don't get the clear answer, you're not going to understand the concept in its totality. And so when it comes time for that next lesson, they go, remember how you did this? Well, that's what you have to do this. So,
Yeah.
in mathematics, it really does make a lot of sense to make sure you ask those questions. Like John said, and Juan, everything builds off of that foundation.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that foundation then. Juan has put some thoughts on paper here about what is the symbolism of arithmetic and mathematics, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I was reading a little bit about arithmetic and how it has been expressed as the language through which God speaks. And yes, some people have used that um, poetic expression to write books that to write books about expressing their understanding of what God is. But if you think about these higher levels of understanding in arithmetic and mathematics, they're very complex. And to the common person, they are almost impossible to understand. And by the same token, when we refer to God, when we're considering the Creator, this is a concept that it's very difficult for us to be able to completely pin down and claim that we understand what God is or how God manifests Himself. So I think it's important to when you look at these things to see, or at least this is how I see it, and I've derived tremendous pleasure from it. So I encourage those who are willing to do it to look at the complexity of life as expressed through mathematics as that language that explains, God is this very complex thing that is part of absolutely everything. So, and I can go on.
Nick, what do you
that
think about
forever.
that?
Well, it's kind of funny. I was watching a video that was posted on our Facebook page from Brother Dylan, and it was kind of interesting that there are actually two theories of mathematics. One, that mathematics is used to explain what the natural environment is, and so there are mathematical principles automatically within the universe, and that's called mathematical realism. The other one, on the other hand, is more abstract and essentially says math is humans' way of explaining human observation. So everything we see, everything we're understanding about math is what we have created to understand it. And so the complex thoughts and the complexities within math, it's just our ability to do it. It's not a universal truth.
That's interesting.
And so it's kind of yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a very esoteric concept. A lot of the kind of weird readings I've been getting into really talk about if you understand the nature of God as being unknowable, and that we can only perceive God through our lens of our mortal form, right? Then, to your point, mathematics was created by us to try to understand nature, to try to understand God, but even that is our own creation, our own structure of how to do that. That's really fascinating.
And the abstractness in that is that the whole idea that, to me, it's fascinating that as a human, in our thought process and how we quantify everything, we feel this need to do that to understand everything. It's amazing to me that we can go 1, 2, 3. As everybody knows, between 1 and 2, there is an infinite series of numbers. So 1.999, Googleplex is still smaller than 2.
Wow.
And so you have to look at, like Nick was saying, it very well could be, just this abstract thing that we came up with in order to decode the universe.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow it makes
Well,
sense.
and for me,
Nick?
Oh, sorry. Well, and for me, I'm more of a mathematical realist. I know my connection must be going crazy, but for me, I'm more of a mathematical realist, and I think most mathematicians are as well. I mean, we send off rockets into space with mathematical codes on them to try to essentially talk to intelligent life in other places in hopes that they will understand what we are saying. So.
Well, they say that mathematics is the only language that the human species will ever, on a basic level, understand any other intelligent life if we find it.
I thought it was love.
Nope.
Just math. Just pure cold math.
Wait a second.
Isn't there a Beatles song about
I
that?
saw Close Encounters of the Third. Burr, 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 burr.
Light signal?
I listened to a very interesting podcast recently. It's called The Truth, and they gave a presentation of, like, they acted what a couple, like a married couple on a different civilization in a different planet of a different galaxy, how would they react if the Voyager spacecraft landed in their backyard and they actually were able to retrieve it and play the record that's on it with the sounds of Earth, and how they interpret it. Oh, what are they trying to tell us? What are these sounds? So if you haven't heard that, it's really, really cool, because it as I listen, I constantly thought, it's like, how naive are we that we're thinking that, what are the chances, first of all, that if there is any intelligent life out there, if there is any, that where we throw this little gadget, it's going to hit that one place that can understand what we're sending, mathematically or arithmetically is
The
virtually
answer is
impossible.
7, and we'll figure out the units later. That was a geek joke. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Thank you for redeeming me.
So you guys talked about numbers. You were talking about, if there's alien life. The mathematics proves it, according to Drake equation. Anybody can look that up. That's a pretty good one. How about that?
Hmm.
The Drake equation.
Yeah. No, those are concepts that I like the idea that it begins with really, really, really simple concepts. You're talking about addition that perhaps was developed for us to be able to have some sort of monetary or capital exchange, and it kept on building upon itself and becoming more complex. And rules had to be observed that, although man-made to a certain degree, I consider them almost universal, because somebody else under different circumstances could have come with a similar system.
Mhm.
But that's taken us all the way to being able to land a space probe on a comet.
Right.
That it just blows my mind that it's like hitting a bullet with a bullet.
It
Yeah.
should blow
You
your
know.
mind. It's ridiculously awesome.
But another observation I've had too is if you've taken like other physics classes and stuff like that, you learn about F equals ma and basic force movement, and then you pass that semester and you take like the second level of physics, and they say, yeah, forget everything you just heard, because that's in a perfect world where it's a completely flat plane and it's a very small microcosm. But let's talk about the bigger scale now. That whole equation won't work because of all these other variables, and that itself is interesting, because that's like a symbol for the search for further truth and light. I see it, that you have basic understanding of your world, your relationship with a creator, with your relationship with other human beings, and then you can continue to find and dig deeper and find more truths that expand or change the way you look at things, which is one of the reasons I like
Uh-huh.
Masonry, is that it changes your perspective. A lot of those things are still true, but now you have a different lens to look through, and it really opens up your eyes as to, wow, there's greater possibilities now that I have more knowledge than when I did in the past.
Right? It opens up your head to all of the possible, well, not all of the possible variables, but the ones that we've witnessed. Allows you to speculate about uh, even further on different issues that might be affecting anything else happening within like those lower levels of mathematics that you were talking about.
What are some of the other observations you've had, Juan, about the nature, the language of arithmetic?
Uh, the One of the notes that I took is that the language of numbers is one that transcends what I call the Babel barriers. We could speak different languages throughout different countries in the world, but there's that one language that we all agree upon, and we're able to question things, prove things, disprove things, come to common agreements by the use of that one language. And uh, we can expand it outwards to try to understand things that are like Robert said, in that realm of time and space. Allow us to look as far as we can, but we can also use that same complexity to look deeper inside and try to understand how matter behaves. And we don't have to speak the same language as long as we're able to agree on certain rules and speak within the language of numbers. Uh, I say we as if I could do any of that. I can look through a telescope and that's as far as I can take it. Uh, but I really enjoy seeing what the human race has been able to do by building upon that very basic science of arithmetic.
Another thing I wanted to mention too is that if you start looking at arithmetic and math as it applies to nature, as what we're alluding to here. Donnie Dillon also posted a great video of Donald Duck in Mathmagic Land. Awesome video. You
I've
gotta
been
watch
looking for that video. Yeah,
It's on there. So thank you, Donnie.
Thank you.
But one thing they allude to there is the art of the golden ratio, or a simpler way of describing it is the Fibonacci series of numbers,
It's my
where
favorite.
you basically take a number and add it to its preceding number to get a new number. So 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. And so on and so forth, 5, 8, 13, 21, etc. In the Fibonacci series, as it goes out into infinity, it actually approaches the golden ratio, or phi, which is equal to about like 1.618. And we could have a whole show about how important the golden ratio is in nature. But what I found fascinating, what kind of blew my mind recently in the past year or so, was that we've all heard about nature emulating these numbers. So with the Fibonacci series, you may see the conch shell spiral out in a perfect ratio that mirrors that. You may see sunflowers, the flower head of a sunflower may spiral out in according to that design. The thing that I found really fascinating is that Fibonacci series of numbers, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, etc. That's how the branches of the trees go out. So when trees branch, they follow that series of numbers pretty orthodox, which is why, for example, a four-leaf clover is so rare, because 4 is not a Fibonacci number. It's 2, 3, and then 5.
Right.
So 4 is a genetic mutation. It's actually an abnormality, which is why it's a rare thing to see a four-leaf clover. Leaves should be in sets of 3, 5, 8, etc. So that's nature following a pattern that we can describe in the Fibonacci series. So if you want to think about that, if we can see nature and order it according to, even if it's a system we made up, this thing called math, we are now describing creation in a fixed order, in a fixed set of rules, syntax. It's the language of God, as we've been alluding to. So I think that's really fascinating that we can directly apply, we can directly see how mathematics and nature are not similar. I mean, they are linked very tight. I just thought it was neat.
Absolutely. You described it better than I could have, so.
No, that was good. That I was gonna say something at the same time I muted myself. That one thing I was gonna say, that scientists, as they get, well, based on what I've seen, as they get into higher and more complex studies of all these different sciences, they might see God in it, but there are scientists that completely see the opposite. There are scientists who believe, when they see all this perfection, they don't see necessarily God as we believe in God. But there's one common thread, though, and it's that sense of awe and amazement at how wonderful all these, coincidences, if you want to call them, or how beautiful they can be. One of them, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I completely love a lot of the things that he does. He is the director of the Hayden Planetarium in New York, and he has a show that I'm sure you've seen called Cosmos. And to see this man talking about science and talking about numbers, and how it's like, I've even heard him talk about that beauty of patterns like the Fibonacci sequence. You see this awe and this amazement through that he speaks about, and it's almost as a religious experience. It's so. Even if you don't see God in it, at least you see something that is greater than you, and you become humble to it.
Beautiful.
So to add on to that, there's a whole list of dudes, Masons and non-Masons alike, that in their day were kind of looked upon oddly because they weren't necessarily of any particular faith, but they believed, um, I would say, in a supreme being based on math alone. You know, so some people would call them deists or whatnot, but guys like Ethan Allen, Charles Darwin, even Stephen Hawking believes that there's quotes that uh, seem to kind of allude to the fact that he believes that something programmed everything.
Right, and that's really what I find fascinating about the intelligent design argument. That it depends on which way you look at it, because you could say because of order to things, that's proof of an intelligent design. You can't say one way or the other it might be a creator, but you can, the facts are there that, again, because branches break off in this Fibonacci series, or etc., that there is some design, there's some pattern built into nature, and so that alone, that intelligent design could be a creator, a god, whatever.
Sure.
And even Albert Einstein has said, God does not play dice with the universe, right?
Right. Yeah.
He's never really kind of come out one way or the other. I don't believe of what his spiritual beliefs are, but I think he did that on purpose. If I'm reading into the stuff I've read.
The quotes on that I've read were that somebody said, "Well, do you believe in God?" And he said, "I don't believe in a God who plays dice."
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it might not be any of the official, huge religions of the world, but he definitely seemed to believe in at least the language of mathematics as some sort of formula that was, used, intelligently designed.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you guys want to cover while I switch over and look at the social media?
We did get go ahead, Juan.
No. I insist.
I was going to mention one of our gentlemen who contacted us about magic squares.
Yes.
Which was pretty neat. If anybody knows about magic squares, they're basically imagine like a Sudoku thing, where every line and row add up to one number. There's a lot of things going on with that, and we could have a whole show about it. But pretty interesting. And in order to complete one of them, you got to be a pretty smart dude. And apparently, Ben Franklin used to do these things when he was bored.
Well, if you guys want, I have been doing some research. I did some research over lunch today, and there are such a thing as math pickup lines. So I would suggest all of our listeners to write these down because they're very important. So, first one, hi. I hear you're good at algebra. Will you replace my x without asking why?
That's horrible.
My ex-girlfriend is like the square root of -1. She's imaginary. If 4 plus 4 equals 8, then me plus you equals fate.
Oh my.
I'm glad I could.
Which one worked for you, Nick?
How did you bag your wife?
Well, let's see. Oh, it's not on here.
Okay, easy now.
Moving to social media. We did cover a lot of some of the videos and concepts that were put up on the Facebook event page. The other thing that at Rockingham Union, the Twitter feed for Rockingham Union 27, has confirmed that Einstein said he believed in Spinoza's God. Spinoza is the, quote, patron saint of pantheism.
Yep.
So, yes, there is a concept of God, and he also said that, not he, Einstein, but I forget, I believe might be Donnie, who's running that Twitter feed, that one need not understand complex advanced mathematics to achieve great things. Pythagoras himself did okay, and he didn't even have the number 0. in his
True.
toolbox. So again, that's one of those things you don't need to understand the complex to derive some truly insightful truths.
Yeah, yeah, because by no means our encouragement of studying the science of arithmetics, it doesn't mean that you need to become this math whiz, because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be a certain propensity for you to have a familiarity with numbers enough to make it your passion. You
Yeah.
know, but if you're able to familiarize yourself enough with them so that it becomes um, a tool or an assistance for you. And I'll give you a practical um, idea of it. Let's say you're moving through the officer line towards the east. The higher, the further you move towards the east, the more important having a good concept of finance and numbers is going to become. You will be at the helm of an organization that is handling budgets and, ideally some forecasts and in committees and all these kinds of things. And if you really can't handle numbers, uh, it's going to be a little bit challenging for you. So the same thing applies for the real world.
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my closing comments. Was I really hope that the treasurer has a good understanding of arithmetic.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's there's practicality to it, and I remember growing up. I'm sure everybody has heard, when am I ever going to use this in real life?
Every day. Dude.
Yeah. People say that. I've used some not advanced but somewhat complex mathematics in my paintings for me to be able to create an imaginary world in which the perspectives are convincing enough to the ordinary eye. I better make sure that the proportions are correct in space, and I achieve that through mathematics. It's not just, I'm not eyeballing them. I actually have taken pen and pencil and paper and actually done mathematical equations to be able to figure out how big a door would be in the distance as compared to the ones in the foreground based on the approximate distance. So I use some complex mathematics in my work.
Well, and don't you use the rule of thirds for also, just as a simple kind of concept? I know my wife takes photographs, and there's constant view of you should always have a third and a third and a third, and it's more pleasing to the eye for some reason. I'm not sure
Actually, I know why.
why.
And so this actually goes back to
So
what we
our
were talking about
brains
earlier.
are much more drawn to that.
Yeah, you're starting
Just
to.
when you're drunk.
Yeah.
Do.
Go drunk, you're home. No, but that the reason that the rule of thirds for cameras, so rule of thirds, you can Google it, where you can kind of see if whatever picture you're looking at or taking is broken into a grid of 9 squares that have, uh, 3 things to divide the frame, which is why I'm kind of sitting off centered here. It's actually pleasing because it's based off the golden ratio, where the ratio is 1.6 to 1. It's a little bit like more than 2/3 over. So because of the golden ratio, the rule of thirds applies.
Boom.
Well,
Pop that mic. All right. On that note, let's start wrapping up here. RJ, why don't you start bringing us home?
All right. So to kind of end it, there was a great piece that was put on the Northern Freemason, and it was presented by Brother Dan Orfo. I hope I said that right. He's Millennium Lodge in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Presented April 8th, 2013. In the closing line of his statement, he says, "To conclude, my brothers, we can use the symbols of arithmetic to guide us through our daily lives, and as Masons must always remember that we must always add to our knowledge, never subtract from the character of our neighbors, multiply our benevolence to our fellow man, and divide our blessings and means with those in need." So I thought that was a really kind of apropos thing for this episode and tie that into Masonry a little bit. So thanks for that paper. And also, I've got episode 173 coming up on Whence Came You. I got Charlie Harper. He's coming back on the show, and we just wrapped an interview. It's really cool. We're talking about his newer book, Spurious State of Confusion, where he dives into the spurious Masonry a little bit deeper. I've got a Masonic gift guide coming out in just a few days, and you're going to find a lot of really cool stuff on there. It's not all going to be completely Masonic. A lot of it's going to be gentlemanly supplies, things that we would use as Masons, getting ready for lodge. Maybe you like a certain type of, maybe like the art of shave, stuff like that. And one of the things that's going to be on that gift guide is a TMR pin. And it really is the gift that keeps on giving, because if you buy that pin, literally, I don't mean this to be in any weird way, but buying that pin supports this show, and when this show can be supported and paid for, we're allowed to keep going, and that helps not just you watch the show, but anybody all the brothers in the world who want to watch the show, and we can spark that conversation that we're always trying to talk about. So go check that out. And again, Jason, not feeling well. Get well, buddy. With that, Sunday nights, 9:30, Whence Came You? And that's it.
Nice. Thank Robert.
Yeah.
Nick.
Alright, so I didn't say much on this episode, not because I don't understand math. I do. Let me tell you, the chicks dig a mathematician. But, it's one of those that it's a topic that it was really nice to hear other thoughts on it, because for me, I'd never heard of the idea that there's such a thing as made-up math, where it's just our version of it, our idea of what a concept means based off of what we ourselves have created. 5 plus 5 equals 10 only because we say 5 and 5 equals 10. And the thing is, I, as a kid, I always loved looking at math problems and, playing around with math. And one of my favorite books was Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And if you don't know, Lewis Carroll was one of those really, really, really smart, sly writers, and he snuck so much math into that book. And it's always fun to go back, especially with the annotated edition, just to kind of figure out, all the different things. And so, one of the parts, Alice is confused, because she's being questioned on what she is, if she's the person that she is. And so she says, "I'll try if I know all the things I used to know. Let me see. 4 times 5 is 12, and 4 times 6 is 13, and 4 times 7 is, oh dear, I shall never get to 20 at this rate." And so, the thing is, if you, it's a very subtle math problem, because you look at it and you go, she's just completely bonkers. She's confused because that's not correct. But the thing is that's a base. It's a base change. It's kind of like a subtle play on words, in a poem. And so the reason she could never get to 20 is because in the base changes that she's going through, she would eventually end up at 1A instead of 19, or instead of 20. And so I've always loved, playing around with all these different math problems and learning things like that. And so, it's really been a really good discussion today. You can find me at my blog, millennialfreemason.com. It's a site that I'm actually getting back active again, so you're welcome. But
Thank goodness.
man, oh man, people just keep writing me saying, "When are you gonna change my life?" But I'm also a mod on reddit.com/r/Freemasonry, which you can find. It's the front page of the Masonic Internet, and that too is going to change your life. And if you are looking for all those pickup lines, I am more than happy to provide them for you.
Thank you, Nick. All right, Brother Juan.
Okay, well, I've enjoyed this conversation. We've touched on some things that are going to have to be discussed offline or in person if you get to meet us. 2015 is going to mark the national TMR World Tour. we'll we'll see you there.
Did you say
No, but,
tour?
The National World Tour. That's great.
yeah, National World Tour of America. No, but some of these topics, yeah, they can get really really heated for people, especially when you try to explain the creator and everybody has a different concept of what that means. But I really like those conversations if you know me, and I love to have them. One thing I didn't want to forget, brother Rob Shields, congratulations. I know there's a new baby in town. I wanted to make sure we give the baby a shout out. The other thing I had is I wanted to thank everybody who has been participating in the conversations on the Masonic Roundtable. We really appreciate your feedback. Not every time we're going to discuss things that you want to hear. At the very beginning of the program, we express that these are our opinions and our personal positions, and there's a chance that we're going to talk about some things and we're going to have particular opinions that you're not going to be satisfied with. However, I don't want you to be discouraged. If you hear us say something that you don't agree with, continue the conversation. Let us know why you believe in a different, why you look at things in a different way. And either it's going to give us a different perspective, which that would be ideal, or it'll help us block you. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. Or it's gonna help us engage in a conversation. That's what makes us better. We're open to hear everybody's opinion about things. So keep the conversation going and let us know.
Mm-hmm.
Robert, you want to say something?
I was gonna actually jump in before John. I forgot to mention something. There's a great book out there, and it's a really old one. Anybody who knows me knows I love Milton A. Pottinger, and he wrote a book called Symbolism of Mathematics and What Every Mason Should Know About Numbers. And if you go to eBay, you can grab it for $18.32, and it's going to be a reprint, but I'm sure there's an academic site out there that has a PDF scan, so check that out.
Cool. Thanks.
Well, isn't that going to be like the whole book is going to be golden ratio, right? I mean,
I can't tell you. The master.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Robert. Yeah, I just want to reiterate what we've mentioned earlier. Good conversation. I was kind of worried how we might turn such a dry topic into something interesting, and surprisingly, I think we did a good job at that. We'll find out after the comments come in. As a reminder, Sparklight campaign, #Sparklight, share your favorite Masonic book or information. Love to hear it. We're picking a winner on December 16th, so 2 Tuesdays from now, and you'll get some goodies. Also, say again?
Swag.
Swagger. And just kind of final thoughts there. As we've alluded to, math itself can be a symbol. One thing that's really interesting about the Blue Lodge and then some of the things that you may cover in the higher degrees is that we are a system of morality veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols, which means that even things that are taken at face value can also be symbols. So the 7 liberal arts and sciences can also be symbols for something else, and we've touched on that even arithmetic can be a reflection of the Creator. And so think about how you can apply some of these thoughts and principles beyond their face value. To build on what Juan was saying, we were pretty outspoken in the youth groups episode, and I think that it's good that we want to spark rhetoric. We've talked about the show earlier about rhetoric. This is a discussion. We are not Masonic experts on everything, but we enjoy having a discussion in a very civilized manner, and so we don't aim to offend, but we definitely want to hear your side, and so please continue to reach out and share your thoughts, experiences, and we'd love to see where we're wrong, because that's the only way you grow. and the only way you learn. No one's perfect. But in all seriousness, we enjoy the conversation. With that, thank you very much for watching, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.